So welcome to my stream, guys. Today I want to talk about what I recorded earlier this week. I want to talk a bit about timeframes. Which timeframes is the best to use for your trading style, in my opinion. And I'm gonna answer some questions like, should you only use one time frame or should you use multiples, and why there are even timeframes in the Woodsbot indicator to begin with. And after that, I'm gonna go over some charts. So I'm gonna look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, Hype, and if you guys have any chart requests, any coins you guys want me to look at, just type in chat, and I'm gonna go over them. So to start things off, do you guys? Okay, I actually have questions for you guys. So I want to talk about timeframes. So how many of you are using multiple timeframes, or do you only use one time frame? And if you only use one time frame, what timeframes do you use? For me, for example, I use the weekly, the 5-day, the daily, the 12-hour, the 4-hour, and the 50-minute. So I use a lot of timeframes, but I know that's not the same thing for a lot of people. I know, for example, Woods uses the 8-hour, which I do not personally. Basically, I use the 4-hour, the 30, and the 15 minutes. Okay. Multiple, mostly week, 4-hour, 1 hour, and 50 minutes to trigger. Okay, nice. I would have expected for people to use more like a singular time frame, you know. I like from 4-hour to daily and 1 hour for night and 4 entries. Nice. So we are all basically, you all relatively use the same time frame, I would assume. So you guys are more like swing traders rather than scalpers, I would assume. And most of you don't use higher time frame. So like the weekly or something. Weekly to get overall bias. Okay. Yeah, so I just wanted to quickly talk about timeframes. I made a masterclass video for that, so that is more in depth. But I just want to quickly recap of what I talked about in there, so you guys are up to date as well. So, what are timeframes? I think every trader in here knows what a time frame is. The timeframes is what you see in the left upper corner from trading view. Basically, you can have any time frame you really want. If you press down on the drop-down menu, you can see there's lots of time frame, and you can create custom time frames as well, right? I, for example, created I don't know if actually. I used back in the day. I used to trade the 55 minutes time frames. I know Warp uses the 8-hour time frame, for example, which isn't really happening as well for most people. Then again, another different time frame I think is underused as well is the 21 time frame, because 21 is a Fibonacci number, so there is some crazy value to that as well. But for me personally, I use the 1 month time frame. I use the weekly time frame, the 5-day, the 3-day, the 2-day, the daily, 12-hour, and 4-hour and 50-minute. I don't go lower than the 50-minute charts, because for my trading style, and that is only up to my trading style, right, is because I'm more of a swing trader. So I don't like to mingle in the lower time frame. So when I started out and with trading, I used to watch the 5-minute chart. Like I was perma in the 5-minute charts, you know, and I'm not kidding. I used to spend 12 hours a day watching charts just by looking at the 5-minute charts or even the 1-minute charts, you know. And I don't think it is bad to use the 5-minute charts, but the advice I can give you guys is the time frame you use should be accustomed to your lifestyle. So if you don't have a lot of time in your life, if you work full time and you have a family, for example, you work 8 hours a day, then you come home, you also have kids, you know, so you don't have a lot of time, which is the case for me personally, which is why I switched over to more medium and higher time frame trading, so more swing trading. And you guys should do the same. So if you guys don't have a lot of time, pick a higher time frame or a medium time frame. I can highly recommend trading the 4-hour. I can highly recommend trading the 12-hour on daily. And for really higher time frame analysis, I can also recommend using the weekly, the 5-day, and the monthly. Now the 5-day is interesting for me because the 5-time frame, I get the best possible swings on the 5-day time frame. And I think the logic behind that is because, you know, obviously we are in crypto, and crypto is trading 24/7, right? But if you go to traditional markets like stocks or minerals like gold and etc., these typically don't trade all the time. They have a 5-day window in which they operate, and on the weekend you can't trade them. So, and when it comes to crypto, even though we can trade crypto all the time, on the weekend that doesn't really happen a lot, right? Like if you, especially on Saturday, like if you saw the charts yesterday, there was no volatility, nothing happening at all. And usually it's the same for Sunday as well. And what I'm trying to get is that from Monday to Friday is where the most relevant price action happens. Even though we do have the weekly closure on Sunday, I do believe the most relevant price action happens on Monday to Friday, which is why I do think the 5-day chart is quite underrated. It's similar to the weekly most of the times, but it can be more of a niche, and I can highly recommend that time frame to add to your trading arsenal if you haven't done that. Now, when it comes to macro analysis, I obviously use the monthly time frame. Right, I think the monthly time frame is probably the biggest time frame you should be using in crypto, because crypto is still young in comparison to stocks, right? Stocks has been there for over 100 years or more, you know, and crypto is still young. So I don't see the reason that you should go higher than the monthly time frame. But as time goes on, for example, like for another 10 to 20 years, definitely consider using even more of a higher time frame when it comes to crypto. But as of yet, crypto is still young, and I don't see a reason to go higher than the monthly. But there is still some relevancy to the monthly time frame, even though it's still high. For example, you can see that we have on the RSI indicator, we have this really nice bearish trend line going on, right? Every time the RSI touched this trend line, this was the macro top. Now it didn't happen in this cycle because the RSI didn't even manage to go to this line. But keep things like that in mind, you know. When Bitcoin, or rather the RSI on the monthly time frame, eventually comes back up again and touches this RSI bearish trend line, it's still likely the price is going to react from that, you know. So even though there's not a lot of things going on the monthly time frame, you can see how this simple RSI trend line called basically the macro top every time, except for this cycle. But for this cycle, the weekly RSI trend line called the macro top, right? If you go to the RSI, we can clearly see this here as well. We had this RSI trend line going on, and yes, you can draw trend lines on the RSI indicator. It works really, really well. I think it even works better than on price action itself. And you can see every time RSI touched this trend line, it was the top. And eventually this trend line marked the macro top for Bitcoin. And I was short on there just based on this weekly RSI trend line. So having these small things in mind can really help elevate your trading and make sure you can catch the Pico bottom and the Pico perfect top on price action. It can be this simple, you know. So if you haven't used the weekly or the monthly, definitely have a look at that, because the higher the time frame, the better the reliability on price action. Yo, what's up, Nickel Tickle? The tickler is back. I'm just gonna drink some water a bit. All right. So this was for the monthly and weekly. What I also can recommend is for the time frames. Always analyze and plan your trades on the medium to higher time frame, but execute on the lower time frame. So what I said in the beginning was that I don't have a lot of time for trading, right? I work more than 8 hours a day. I have a family at home, so I don't have a lot of time to watch the charts. However, I do still want to trade and catch these massive swings. So what I do is that I analyze and plan my trades based on the higher time frame, and I consider higher time frame anything above the daily and the daily itself as well. So for me, the daily is higher time frame. And I plan my trades based on that. So I'm in a Bitcoin long, for example, right now. I was watching that area. In the last stream, I mentioned that Bitcoin managed to keep making higher lows all the way, right? Bitcoin managed to make higher lows all the time. So my theory was that if price action stays bullish, price action should also make another higher low, right? So Bitcoin did exactly that. I pulled my Fibonacci out. Look at my Fibonacci levels and waited for price action to come into my levels, which it did right there. Weekly RSI gives hint that we are bottoming right down now. Yeah, there's I don't think it's the exact bottom, simply because we rarely bottom just based on one RSI bullish divergence, you know. When you looked at this area right here, you had multiple bullish divergences, right? You had here one bullish divergence here and then another there. And every time we topped out on Bitcoin, we also had actually we didn't have multiple. We had one single bearish divergence on this one, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I guess if we count, yeah, I guess, yeah. But yeah, you know, usually I like to have multiple bearish or bullish divergence to say that's the bottom or top, you know. Like if I go to the monthly time frame and look at this momentum, you know, like Bitcoin just rejected from this 50 mark, right, on the RSI. Now it's pumping again, but this is a place for a lower high on the RSI, right? Like, this is not a bullish structure on the RSI, but if, for example, the RSI actually closes above this high and the 50 mark, I mean, yeah, then it's game on, and this was the bottom. But yeah, like, as long there's no bullish signal for me on the monthly time frame, it's hard to say with 100% certainty that this is going to be the bottom, you know. But I do think this is a good bounce with the weekly bullish RSI that can lead Bitcoin towards 74k. I think Bitcoin can definitely easily go to 74k and then reject from there, and then maybe comes back down to 50k, you know, and then have triple bullish divergence. And this is where the bottom potentially could be, you know. Then you have triple bullish divergence, then it's good to go. That's my logic for now. Anyways, let me go back to the 12-hour chart. So what I was trying to say is that I plan my trades on the higher time frame, like the 12-hour. And I was watching these Fibonacci levels, right? And then I saw price action coming into my Fibonacci levels. And then instead of, as you guys know, my triggers for longing are bullish divergence, Woodsbot's level being hit, Fibonacci levels being hit, and decreasing volatility, right? And obviously you can see on the 12-hour time frame, nothing is there. The only thing that happened was it hit my 12-hour Fibonacci levels, but there was no Woodsbot levels on the 12-hour. There was no bullish divergence on the 12-hour, because in my opinion, if you plan your trades, for example, on the 12-hour, you can't wait for your triggers on the 12-hour. If you plan your trades on the higher time frame, you need to have lower time frame execution, because otherwise you're never going to go. You will never be getting any trades. So plan your trades on the higher time frame or medium time frame, wait for your levels, and then execute on the lower time frame. And I mean by executing is, for example, I go to the 30 minutes time frame, and I can see, okay, price action hit the Woodsbot levels, but there was no bullish divergence. So as I said in the beginning of the stream, I use the 50 minutes chart for my execution. And what can we see? We have bullish divergence on the 50-minute chart, with price action hitting the Woodsbot levels and hitting the Fibonacci levels right there, right? You have the Fibonacci level right there, and then you have the 15-minute Woodsbot level right there, and you have the RSI bullish divergence. And my Fibonacci area was planned on the 12-hour, right? My logic was planned on the 12-hour time frame with the potential higher low making. But my execution happened on the lower time frame. And if you plan your trades on the higher time frames and you have the reliability of higher time frame levels, but the execution of lower time frame levels, then you can really, really picture perfectly snipe your entries. You can see how this Fibonacci, Woodsbot levels, and bullish divergence was the perfect entry for your long. And I made that long. You know, I was able to long this so perfectly thanks to higher time frame levels but lower time frame execution. And this is what I always do for any trades. And I don't spend a lot of time on charts, you know. I just maybe like spend 1 hour per day on just watching charts. Like, that's it. You can see how powerful this is. And you just have to, if you plan your trades, just set yourself alerts before price action comes into your levels, you know. So I'm interested in these Fibonacci levels. And what I did is I just set an alert. Well, I can't do it in the replay tool, but I just set an alert. And then I got a notification on my mobile phone. Hey, price action is coming into your levels. Then I go to the charts. Then I see, okay, there's bullish divergence on the 15-minute charts. Let me long this. And my analysis only takes like about 5 minutes in the morning. And then I set my alerts. And like 10 hours later, I get the notification. I jump into a trade based on the lower time frame execution. And I can make money, right? Like just with half an hour of work. I think this is how powerful trading can be, because you don't need to spend a lot of time if you plan your trades on the higher time frame, right? But if you are super active in trading and scalp everything on the lower time frame, obviously you can do this as well. You just need to know, okay, lower time frame price action is not as reliable as higher time frame levels, right? So it just comes down to your personal preference, what you would like to do and how much time you have in your life for trading. But if you don't have a lot of time for trading as I do, and you only have limited time each day for watching charts, do it like I do, you know. Plan your levels on the higher time frame. Be super patient. Never chase the market. Wait for price action to come into your levels. And then once your higher time frame levels are being hit, look at lower time frame triggers and lower time frame execution, like the RSI bullish divergence, like the Woodsbot levels, like volatility, and like Fibonacci levels, you know. I really want to hammer this into your heads. It is super easy. Trading can be super easy, you know. Trading can be so fucking easy if you're just being patient. Mark out your higher time frame levels and wait for your lower time frame execution. Don't just stick to one time frame. And I know that time frames can be really confusing for most of people, because it was confusing for me, you know. Like if you, for example, if you go to the monthly time frame, Bitcoin is obviously in a downtrend, right? So the higher time frame bias is you should go fucking short. But if you go to the daily time frame, there's a clear uptrend on the daily time frame, right? As we can see here. So even though the monthly time frame is trending down, the daily time frame is trending up and even has daily bullish divergence on it, right? So you should consider longing. So you are longing into a higher time frame bearish downtrend, because each time frame has different trend structure. And this is, I think, the confusing part about time frames, because it's like, if you're not experienced, what should you listen to, right? Should you listen to the monthly time frame trend structure or the daily? And you need to have clear signals and triggers of what time frames you are using. So make sure after the stream is to really identify and figure out which time frame do you actually want to use, and how much time do you have in your day to trade, right? Like if you only have 1 hour per day, don't fucking trade the 5-minute chart. But if you do have a lot of time, you can consider trading the 5-minute chart. But make sure, if you decide on one time frame, stick to it. And make sure to always plan your trades on a more higher time frame, on a more higher time frame level, and execute your trades on lower time frame levels. Even if you use the 5-minute charts for your trades, if you plan your trades on the 5-minute charts, use the 1-minute chart as your execution, right? Go even lower for your execution if you want to scalp. It's super important. Came to listen to my person in his favorite voice. Nice to see you, Talisman. Does this make sense to you guys? So I want to guys give you some homework for today. Like, even though people don't like homework, but if you're struggling in trading, it might have to do with your consistency. So choose timeframes. It doesn't really matter which timeframes you use. Like, all timeframes can be useful in each specific way, you know. Like, it doesn't really matter if you use the daily or the 12-hour. It can be, yeah, right, but choose one time frame that you feel like where price action is clean and making sense to you, that feels the best. Match it to your personal life and the time you have on your hands. Choose that higher time frame. Plan your trades on that time frame and execute on the lower time frame. If you are trading the 4-hour, use the 50 minutes for your execution. I can highly recommend that. If you use the 12-hour time frame, use the 30 minutes or the 50 minutes or the 1 hour for execution. You have to choose yourself, because if you use the 12-hour time frame to plan your trades, in my experience, the best time frame for execution on the 12-hour time frame is the 30 minutes. But if you want to be more aggressive, you can also use the 50 minutes. But it's up to you, you know. And if you use the daily time frame for your plans and your trades, at minimum use the 1 hour as your execution on the lower time frame. Don't go lower than the 1 hour if you use the daily to plan your trades, in my opinion. Do you guys have any questions so far? I'm good with this topic. Stop loss is defined in any of those timeframes, 1 hour. So the stop loss, so basically your invalidation, how do I put it? No questions, but checking OBS. I made sure to record this time. I felt so retarded last time when I didn't record. Like, I yapped for 1 hour and it was so annoying. So your stop loss, it really depends on your trading strategy. So for me, let's go over this Bitcoin trade, for example, that I took. So I was long, let me look. I was long on this bullish divergence right here. All right. So again, I used to plan my trade on the 12-hour time frame, right? But I executed on the 15-minute time frame. So where do I put my stop loss in this case? Even though I use lower time frame triggers to enter a trade, I don't use it to exit a trade. My invalidation is based on the 12-hour time frame. So I put my stop loss because my logic was price action making a higher low, right? Because we have been doing this so far on Bitcoin. So my logic was price action should not come below this swing low right there. So my hard stop loss was below this 12-hour swing low. So I entered the trade based on the 50-minute time frame on the bullish divergence. But for my stop loss, I base it on my 12-hour market structure. If that makes sense to you. But it really depends on your trading strategy. like if you have different triggers, you can place your stop loss in different ways, you know. Like for example, if I go to the 50-minute time frame, and you can see my triggers was this bullish divergence, right? And price action hitting the Woodsbot levels, and also price action hitting the Fibonacci level. So all of my triggers aligned, and you could also use your stop loss manually. So if, for example, if you look at the RSI, and my reasoning to enter this trade was the bullish divergence, right here. But if the RSI, for example, comes back down and closes below this bullish divergence, you can also close your trade. This is also possible, but it requires more attention, and you just need to be more attentive and know what you're doing. But if you want to keep it simple, I would say put your stop loss based on the higher time frame market structure. But if you want to be more efficient, you can use, for example, if you use RSI bullish divergence, you can see and wait if the RSI comes back below your bullish divergence, because that would invalidate the bullish divergence, right? And then you can close your trade manually. So you have the option to manage your risk and your position and your stop loss based on the lower time frame. It is in theory more efficient, but if you don't have a lot of time, I would just recommend using higher time frame market structure as your validation. Does this make sense, Mariano? Perfect. And obviously this applies to all confluences you use, right? Like if you, for example, you enter based on a Monday high sweep, you can obviously use that Monday high sweep as your validation. It just depends on the confluence you use, basically, and the strategy. And for me, I can use RSI bullish divergence as my stop loss, as well as market structure, basically. Or you can also use Woodsbot levels as well. But again, just depends on your confluence. There's no perfect answer to that, I would say. All right, any other questions? Otherwise, I would be having a look at Bitcoin and just analyze the charts a bit. Oh, well, it seems like no one has questions at the moment. So I'm just gonna go some quick analysis on Bitcoin. Oh, it's nice to see you as well, Compossible. I didn't know you were here as well. By the way, guys, one thing I have to add. Next week, my streaming schedule is gonna change again. So moving forward, starting next week. Yeah, I know, Camilla. But it's not my fault, I promise. It's I just had to adapt to my boy Woods. But yeah, so moving forward, starting next week, I'm gonna be streaming Monday, Wednesday, and Sunday. Alright? So same time as always, just different days. So instead of Tuesday, I'm gonna be streaming on Monday. And instead of Thursday, I'm gonna be streaming on Wednesday. Sunday is gonna stay the same. Yeah, so Monday, Wednesday, and Sunday. So you guys can actually see me tomorrow as well. Isn't that nice? You come back from work, and Getalle is here back again streaming. But next week, Sunday, I'm not gonna be able to stream. I'm gonna make another announcement for that because I will be having surgery next Friday. Yeah. Yes, Kim. Same time. Yeah, so I'm gonna have eye surgery, so I'm not gonna be looking like a pirate anymore. So I'm gonna be a normal human being, hopefully. And yeah, just to give you guys a heads up. So let's go back to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is at a interesting place right now, like really, really interesting. So I'm in this long position right now, but I almost took, so I took 90% of my position already off, right? Bitcoin reached this resistance right here, this confluence zone, and I took most of my position off because it is the weekend after all, and price action usually pumps into the weekend and then dumps on Monday right after that. And we also had some lower time frame divergence right there, right? Bitcoin still went higher, but this is where I took most of my profits, and I'm happy with the profits. But now the question: does Bitcoin go higher or not? It really depends if Bitcoin manages to close above this high. Like if you guys can see a 4-hour closure above this high, I think this is a super easy long. Like, because if it closes above this high, it should pump. Like, it honestly just should pump after that. Like, if this is another fake out, I don't know what to say. Like, I don't know what to tell you. It's just unlucky and part of the game. But if you see Bitcoin closing back above this 4-hour candle, back above this confluence zone, it should go for higher. Like, it should definitely reach 66k, 67k, and reach for these highs. I think this is where my head is right at the moment. Direction wise, I'm not too sure. It's still holding structure, it still managed to hold this low right here. Let me have a look at momentum. It's not super telling, to be honest. It's momentum is like kind of consolidating, but there's not a real push, Volatility is also still decreasing, so I don't expect like a super strong push in the next couple of hours. Yeah, volatility is still decreasing. Like, it's hard to trust a breakout when volatility is dead, right? If volatility is increasing and you have momentum to the upside, then a breakout can happen. But right now, it's the only time frame where volatility is increasing is on the 1 hour. But again, it's also not above the moving average right here. So it can potentially just pump and then reject from off the moving average. But if it closes above the moving average on the 1 hour, this would be a good signal for volatility, and that a potential breakout is gonna be happening. And I do weigh the 1 hour. Like, the 1 hour for me is the best time frame for volatility, in my opinion. I think it's the most accurate when it comes to volatility expectation. But it's hard to say, honestly. Like, what are your guys' opinion about Bitcoin at the moment? Do you think it will go higher, or does it go lower first? Like, because this is a like, if Bitcoin makes a lower high, this is the place for Bitcoin making a lower high, right? So I'm not super convinced about the direction where Bitcoin is headed at the moment. Bitcoin USDT on Binance chart have this confluence so a bit lower. Actually? Oh, this is Bybit. Do I have Binance? Yeah. Oh yeah. Why is it so fucking different? What the fuck? Does Binance have such a different price action? Well, now I'm even more confused. Do I trust Bybit now, or do I trust Binance? Right, I'm gonna be looking at the index. I think the index is probably the most accurate because it has combined data from all exchanges, right? So I guess I would stick with the index. But now you've questioned. Wait, no, but on perpetual futures on Binance, it's below the confluence zone as well. So this is just for Binance Spot, right? Yeah. On Bitfinex, it's also above the confluence, or just right in the middle of the confluence zone. So the spot chart is looking better than the perpetual chart. Well, now you fucked my analysis even more. Thank you for the damage. Like, now I'm even more confused than before. I would say the best thing to do in this situation is to see the spot flow, you know, like check CVD, check funding rate, etc. See if the futures are holding the price up, or if spot demand is holding the price up, you know. I think this is what I would say is the best right now. I don't have the websites online right now for this, but yeah, like for me this is a no trade zone. Like if I don't know what the fuck is going on in the market, I'm not looking for anything, right? However, I do have a plan in mind for a trade. So if you guys are looking for a scalp, not a swing, a scalp position on Bitcoin, this is where I will be looking to potentially enter a long. If you go to the 2-hour time frame, you can see that we have this 2-hour demand zone right there, right? We have the Woodsbot level, and it aligns with Fibonacci levels as well. So same setup as usual. You know me, you know my strategy by now. I'm a sucker for demand zones. I'm a lover for the Woodsbot levels, you know. And if everything aligns like this, I think this is the perfect setup for me for a potential scalp. Why? The reason why I don't want to swing this is because if price action actually comes down to this level, it means this lower high is confirmed, right? And if this lower high is confirmed, then price action should really come back down below this low eventually, right? So this would only be a potential scalp, meaning that if I were to take this long position, obviously I only take this position if there was bullish divergence, right? And the potential target would be this level for me, and this level as well, this Woodsbot level. And for my invalidation, I would use my invalidation based on the RSI bullish divergence. So, for example, if the RSI comes down here, right, and then makes a divergence right there, I would use this RSI bullish divergence as my invalidation. So if the RSI were to come back down below, I will close my trade manually. This way, you can keep your stop loss really, really tight. Like, you don't have to use this 1.4% stop loss with the swing low as invalidation, because the invalidation is too far away for this type of scalp, right? So you need to have a tighter invalidation. And if you have bullish divergence, you can probably have a stop loss around like 0.5%. And then you have a good risk to reward ratio of 2.0, and you can have a nice little scalp. So this would be my area of interest for a potential Bitcoin long scalp, but again, only if there is bullish divergence. If there's no bullish divergence, I'm not going to be entering this trade, okay? But other than that, all triggers would align, you know. I just need to have bullish divergence on this. So yeah, this is what I'm going to be looking for longs. Other than that, if Bitcoin actually manages to close above the swing high right here, then I will be looking for longs as well. Because if it closes above the swing high, this would mean continuation of the market, and you can use the last swing low right there. Right, you have this swing low right here. If Bitcoin closes above this swing high right there, the market should not come below the swing low right there. It shouldn't. If it stays bullish, it shouldn't come back again below this low. So you can place your stop loss right there, and your targets would be this confluence zone, a potential sweep of this high, and potentially even higher as well. As I said earlier in the beginning, when I talked about the monthly time frame, there's definitely potential for Bitcoin to reach even 71, 72, 74K, right? So this will be my trade setup. I know it's a bit fucking messy. It will basically look like this. This is where this is a trade idea if price action is managing to close above the swing low. So I don't have any triggers right now to go into a trade, and I don't have to, you know. Like, I want to be patient. I don't know the direction Bitcoin is going to go right now, but I want to be prepared in case it does, right? So I'm going to set myself alerts for a potential flip of these highs, and I also have alerts for this 2-hour demand zone right here, right? For this one. So this is where I'll be looking for longs. For shorts, I don't have any triggers right now. Like, for shorts, if price action comes back again towards 74K 800, this is a potential short area for me. However, it would need to have pretty heavy bearish divergence, which I don't think will be the case, looking at momentum right now. So this is definitely a weaker place to short right now, because it's still holding market structure, you know. You don't want to step in front of the train when it stays bullish, you know. And so far, I don't see, like, there's nothing too bearish about this right now. You know, a better short would be if price action comes back above, sweeps this high, and has bearish divergence, right? This would be a potential short scenario. So, for example, it sweeps liquidity from this high, it sweeps this high, and it has bearish divergence on it on the 4-hour time frame, you know. Like, this is a potential short that you can take with your invalidation So this would be your entry, and the invalidation would be above the swing high right here, right? So this would be a liquidity play, and as a swing failure pattern play. I'm not the best at that, to be honest. I like to stick with my strategy, and this is not my trading strategy. But if you are looking for shorts, this is a potential short area. All right. I think that's it for today. If you guys have any last questions, I'm gonna answer those. But other than that, I would call it a day. So if you guys want me to look at any coins before I hop off, I can do that. Can you chart GTO? Yes, sir. And again, guys, make sure to choose your time frames wisely, okay? So if you guys don't have a defined time frame, choose your time frames today. G2 is not looking it's not bad, you know. Like it's under resistance right now. So if you are already in a long position, Bosco, you should consider taking some profits. But if you are not in a long position and you want to go into a position, I would wait for price action to flip above these highs in the Woodsbot levels. And wait for some lower time frame consolidation, right? But this is definitely looking quite strong, if I have to say. Momentum is looking fine on the 1 hour. 4 hour momentum is still under the 50 mark, so there's still potential for a short, but there's no clear trigger right now. Bye bye, deep damage. Have a nice day. There's no bullish bearish divergence right now on the 50-minute charts. So as long as there's no bearish divergence, I would not look for any shorts, but there can be definitely bearish divergence around this level. So if price action pushes up, there could be potential for bearish divergence, but I don't have any triggers to short this right now. Momentum is looking fine, decent. No bearish divergence, so no trade for me. I would just wait for this flip, to be honest. You can see how price action rejects from this level permanently, right? Like even now it's rejecting from this level. But if price action manages to close above, I think this is a strong signal for continuation on G2. But it is at range highs, it is at resistance, so you should be looking for shorts, but I don't have any short triggers, sadly. There's no bearish divergence, so I can't short here, right? But if your confluences are meeting, I don't think it's a bad place for a short. I just don't have any bearish divergence right now. Alright, I hope this helps. Thanks you guys for coming to the stream. Next stream is gonna be on Monday, so tomorrow, same time as always, just a different day. So tomorrow I'm gonna be talking about charts mostly. Look at some trade setups because Monday is always super volatile and there's lots of fun to trade. So thank you guys for having me. I'm gonna see you guys tomorrow and have a nice rest of your Sunday. Bye bye.